The phenomenon that is Tiger King. Could you believe it?
It's insane. It's insane. No, well, because originally, the show wasn't supposed to be about, Joe being arrested or anything like that. It was just supposed to be about like the big cat underworld.
Right.
So, he got arrested and like the whole story changed. It became like a completely different storyline. Yeah, most of the stuff, they did the interviews with like Carol and Jeff and whatnot, but it became a way bigger deal once he got arrested. And nobody expected it to be, as popular as it is right now.
I mean, it has literally, you can't go on Twitter. That's what everyone is talking
I
about.
know, I know.
So what do you think about the portrayal of everyone? What do you think about the portrayal of Joe?
I mean, the producers, Rebecca and Eric, they really portrayed everybody to be, exactly how they are, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, I've met everybody except for Doc Antle and James Garrison. I haven't met him or Carol, but they really tried to stay true to the story and like the information that they could find out.
Hmm.
And I mean, I feel like it was very authentic. Nothing was made up, and it was very accurate in my opinion.
How's Joe doing these days?
I mean, considering where he is,
Right.
you know, a few days ago he was moved to a different jail. It was a medical facility in Fort Worth, Texas, and I've yet to hear from him. So
Hmm.
what I've been told is that he's on like a 14-day isolation because of the COVID-19, the coronavirus. So I'm still waiting to hear back from him for that. But once the show was aired, he was getting hundreds and thousands of emails from fans and people like showing their support for him. And I mean, he was really excited. I even would talk to him about some of the memes that were made, and he just laughed his butt off. It was hilarious. He loved it. And I
um,
mean, Joe is the type of person, he loves the attention, obviously.
right.
So, any kind of fame or spotlight that he has, it was greatly appreciated.
Let me ask you, Dylan, could you go into another area? Just the reception's a little off. You're sort of
Yeah.
stagnant.
Yeah.
If
One
there's
second.
another place. Sorry.
I'm like outside right
Yeah,
now.
I
Hold
got
on.
you.
I can go inside.
Okay.
How's that? Is it a little better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay.
So are you and Joe still married?
We are still married.
Yeah. So what was it that made you marry Joe?
So like there was multiple interviews that were not shown, and I guess this is going to be the first time that this was publicly stated. Um, but I was in a really bad place in my life, and Joe helped me get healthy again and get in the right mental state. I felt alone and felt like there was going to be nobody there for me,
Mm.
and Joe made me feel like there was a reason to be alive, I guess. And being around the animals and being able to take care of newborn tigers,
Right.
it was like an enlightenment, kind of like an awakening
Right.
period for me, and I felt like I had a purpose.
Mm.
And we had, at first it wasn't a romantic relationship.
Right.
It was more of a companionship. He didn't want to be alone, and you know he just kind of helped me in like when I was in my darkest time. And I felt like it was only right for me to help him in his darkest time because he had recently lost Travis.
Right.
And uh and I mean, I love Joe unconditionally and like forever. But yeah, that's kind of how him and I became, an item.
Mm. What'd your family think of him?
Yeah, actually, my family actually really does like Joe.
Mm-hmm.
The situation is, they think he was stupid for what he did,
Right.
and for involving himself in that and involving me in that, because I was absolutely clueless to that when he got arrested. The arresting officers in Pensacola didn't even tell me why he was arrested,
Wow.
and I had to find out when he went to his mediation,
Mm-hmm.
downtown, and so it was a shock to me for sure. But you know, I wasn't just gonna abandon him when he needed help, you know,
Right.
because he was there for me. So I felt only right to stay by him and not judge him for the circumstance, because I understood his relationship with Carol,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very negative kind of thing. So, I mean, you know, and he was in a dark place whenever all of this stuff occurred.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, he just needed support. So we're just going to stay next to him.
So, when was the first time you saw Tiger King?
The first time I saw Tiger King, okay,
Yeah.
so in the show, it was like the first date, right? Going into the snow at the parade, the Christmas parade. But I met him the night before, me and my cousin, who I was living with at the time in Ardmore, Oklahoma, which was about 30, 45 minutes away from Wynnewood.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the restaurant bar that he had, and he wanted to sing to me karaoke.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first time I met Joe, you know, and then he took me back to the zoo, because the bar was literally like half a mile away from the zoo. So he was like, hey, come back here, blah, 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 blah. So he just showed me around the house a little bit, got to play with some baby tigers, which was freaking insane, let me just tell you. And yeah, after that, I went home that night, and then, you know, took me to the parade, and then I just never left the zoo.
Wow. What do you say to people who say that Joe has taken advantage of straight guys?
I'm as gay as can be. I love men. All right. I am not sexually attracted to females whatsoever. I mean, maybe sometimes, but like it's I prefer men. Okay, but with the comment saying, you know, does Joe take advantage of straight guys? I don't think so, because I have seen and met John Finley personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I met him, he tried to hit on me, and that's not what a straight guy would do. Okay.
Yeah.
Travis, I'd never met, you know, but from what I hear around the park, he loved Joe unconditionally. Joe, you know, was there for him and treated him like a king, you know, and from what I hear, you know, on the show, people were like, oh, Travis was doing this, Travis was doing that. I have heard from multiple people that, you know, Travis loved Joe unconditionally. Like, he never wanted to take his wedding ring off. Like,
right.
He just he loved Joe for Joe. You know, he may not have been gay, but I mean, in my opinion, that doesn't change the fact that you can build a connection with anybody.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And they had a very strong bond, in my opinion, not from firsthand, but from things that I've heard and videos that I've seen that weren't showed in the documentary.
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't think Joe takes advantage of straight guys.
What about the drug use, though? There was a lot of drug use alleged in the documentary.
When I was around, there were absolutely no drugs going on. I mean, I smoke a lot of weed.
Okay.
And the thing is, I was addicted to Xanax whenever I first met Joe.
Got it.
And, you know, he never once allowed me to do that. And, you know, at first when I was there, I was like, hey, you know, kids, is there any way we can get this? We can get that, because I had my marijuana, you know. And never once was that a thing, you know. Maybe, and Joe mentioned in the documentary, you know, he had experienced drugs and done all that back in the day, but when I was around, none of that was happening.
But what about with Travis and John? I mean, obviously you weren't around when Travis was around, but you know, the allegation is that he was plying them with drugs.
I mean, in the documentary, it said, you know, meth mouth. And I mean, John had 2 teeth in his mouth. So
right.
Let's be real.
And what about Joe and meth?
You know, I honestly have no idea about that. When I was around, he never looked like he was on drugs. He would wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, come home at 10 p.m. In my opinion, he didn't have time to do drugs like that.
Right.
All he did was smoke a lot of cigarettes and make it through his day. And he was stressed out constantly. Right. So, I mean, he had a lot on his shoulders.
What's life like for you now? So do you live in Florida now?
Yes, I'm actually living in Florida. I'm living in far west Florida.
You got it.
And I mean, I absolutely enjoy it. It's a really good time. I have good people around me, a good support system, and my family back home in Texas.
What do you do for work?
I bartend, but currently it's not happening.
Well, I saw you went river rafting,
Yes,
but you're not
and it was
supposed
a
to
lot
be.
of fun.
You're not supposed to be gathering in groups.
There was only 6 of us. That's the thing. That was the thing.
But what about now?
But now all of it's closed. I mean,
Yeah.
I've just been staying home with the dog. So.
And when was the last time you? So does Joe have COVID-19, or you don't know?
No, he does. From what I know, he does not have the coronavirus.
Right.
But I know that, like, since it was in Grady County
Mm-hmm.
jail, where he was before he got moved, that this medical facility which he was transferred to, they said that it was a possibility that he was going to be put on a 14-day quarantine.
Got it. When was the last time you spoke to him?
I think Thursday or Friday.
And is he? I mean, I know he's in prison, obviously, but how do you even explain the popularity of Tiger King to him? I mean, he's getting these letters,
but he gets, what you don't understand is, like, he had a very large access to all of the internet and the media, and
so
like
he's seen it.
Yeah. So,
okay.
So he's had people like send him pictures, and like he gets hundreds and hundreds of emails, like just in the few days before he was transferred from the show dropping on Netflix. He had received hundreds and hundreds of emails, and he said he was spending all day, on the computer, like just going through these emails and like trying to respond to people. And he had people from all over the world, saying, "Oh, like Team Joe, like Free Joe."
Do you think he was treated fairly by the justice system?
I feel like it's a very complicated situation. The prosecutor definitely allowed her witnesses to perjure themselves, knowing that they were lying, because there was evidence given to the defense, that proved otherwise. And the prosecution, they have to have, they all share the same evidence.
Right.
And so she didn't let Jeff testify on the stand for a reason, because she knew he was going to perjure himself.
Right.
And I believe this to be like 100% true. So, I mean, there's, even in the show, Alan, like, countered himself, he contradicted himself, saying, oh, I didn't go to Florida. And then while he's on the stand, he's like, I did go to Florida.
Right.
So, it's just a whole different kind of situation.
Right.
And it's very complicated. And that's kind of what this lawsuit that Joe's dropped is mostly about, is that he was wrongfully accused and wrongfully acquitted, or charged, my bad.
Right.
And it's a tough situation. I feel like it could have been, if it was investigated more, instead of just going straight off of what, was said by all of the criminals, because everyone who testified were all criminals, and have criminal records. It was just a matter of taking Joe down, because the Fish and Wildlife, or Fish and Game, they had other motives. They did.
So if Joe was released from prison tomorrow, what would you do?
We would, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'd go pick him up, and he'd come live with me where I'm at, and like, this is our house, and I have our dog, and I think his main goal would be to get his animals back, because it was his dream and his brother's dream to have the zoo and to do something, and he spent 15 years doing it, 15 plus years, and his whole life's work was just taken away from him like that. And that's just, it's got to be heartbreaking, and like, I mean, I was only at the zoo for like maybe 6 months, and I had my personal animals, and I lost my animals, and like the babies that I had formed my bonds with and raised since they were
the tigers,
super tiny. Yeah. But I also raised a camel and lemurs and, other things. And I lost them. And that's just after 6 months. Wow. Imagine how Joe felt after 15 years.
Right. So what's next for you?
Honestly, I don't know. I really do not know. I'm just kind of taking my life day by day, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I've learned that in the past 2 years of my life, but I try to make the most of the situations I'm given. And I just try to live my life in a positive light.
Where's everyone else? I'm just looking up right here.
Mm.
Where is everyone else who we saw? I know one of the things that's been going around right now is they've been talking about SAFF and SAFF's gender identity. That the documentary was identifying him as a she.
You see, SAFF, he identifies as male,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like that should definitely be respected.
Right.
And he's really a tough guy, and he stood by Joe's side through thick and thin.
Most people would not return to work after having their arm
cut
off.
No, and then even after that, he went and worked at the bar when the cook quit, and then everyone else quit at the bar restaurant.
Right.
And SAFF was the one taking care of it, like building stuff, like using a hammer and nail. Like, how do you even do that?
Right.
So kudos to him. And we weren't very close, but I respect him because he has always stood by Joseph's side.
Right.
That's the most important thing to me.
Why does Joe have so many supporters around him?
Do you mean like personally or
personally,
like public? Because Joe he's honest to God, a really good man, and he has good beliefs. When people need help, he's the first person that they call, and he doesn't hesitate to say yes. Right. He's bailed so many people out of jail. He's gotten them vehicles. Mm-hmm. He has fed them when they had no food. Mm-hmm. I'd come home all the time, and people would be raiding our fridge. Mark Thompson, the police officer,
right,
in the docuseries.
Yep.
Him and his wife would come, and I'd come home, and they'd be in both of our fridges, just raiding the fridge. And okay for them, but for them to say negative things about Joseph when all he's done was be good to them because they were kissing Jeff's ass. Right. It shows character for sure.
Well, Dillon, thank you. Thank you for chatting with me. I have your number. Sure. I'll call you. I'll text you if I have any other questions. I'm sure there will be.
Yes.
I know you mentioned you had some other phone calls going on. So you're looking at some Tiger King business?
Just some merch stuff, because there's a lot of bootleg stuff going around right now. People being selfish. So
this has to be a wild ride for you.
I mean, it's definitely intense, man, because I never expected, anybody to even find out like my social media. And like all it is on there is my name. It says Dillon.
Well, that's why I had you take your glasses off.
Yeah,
you don't know. You know. When I saw it,
my hair is shorter too now, so it's like and it's been 2 years, so I've definitely went from 22 to 24. I could say that. Right.
Awesome, Dillon. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed our time.
Yeah, we'll keep chatting, and once the story goes up, I'll make sure you see it.
Yes, and I'm glad I finally got to, speak my side because, everyone has their opinions on certain things, but I feel like I could, give some people some relief on their claims and stuff,
Well, thanks for trusting me with it.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.